Hello, I'm Chef Joe Robbins. I'm from Old Town, Maine. I'm part of the Penobscot tribe. So today we're cooking a Three Sisters Succotash inspiration. Normally I'd use beans, but today because we have dried fiddleheads, we're going to take advantage of using those, this foraged item. Foraged right here in Maine and dried. If you take a look at them, they've got a lot less life to them than they would if they came straight out of the ground. But we're going to bring life back to it using apple juice. So for ingredients today, we have butternut squash, frozen carrot, jalapeno, which is optional in this recipe, some dried fiddleheads, some canned strained corn, some butter, some honey, oil for our fat, and apple juice to rehydrate those fiddleheads, and then also salt and pepper for seasoning. So first thing I like to do with the squash is to really square it up and make a safe vegetable to cut. Obviously this is kind of a weird, awkward movement, so firm hand with the left, firm hand with the right, and just remove the parts that we're not going to use for the recipe today, and really get it as square as possible so it's not to move as you're trying to peel it. Keep your fingers out in the way as you work down and get all that peeling. There's no reason to waste any of this or throw any of this away. This can all be used for veggie stocks. It's basically what we use them for in the restaurant. We also we compost anything that isn't something that we'd like to serve to guests. So there's no reason to throw any of this away. Our big goal right here is just to be safe and to square up so that we can get into those nice diced pieces and have them more uniform so they all cook evenly in the pan. So I'm just going to take long strips, about 1/4 inch as a depth gauge, sort of. There. And bring them all flat. Kind of make some nice batons. That's how you get your nice dice. Next up, we're going to do our jalapenos, process those. These are optional, but with the honey in the dish, I would recommend that you give some type of heat or some type of just other flavor. You got all these vegetables kind of working together and they're all pretty sweet naturally. So to give it kind of just another texture, another flavor in the background, it's really good to use something like a jalapeno. So I like to cut off the end first and then just kind of work down, cutting away from myself and get a few strips out of it. And that ensures that I'll have no seeds, none of that extra oil, so they can kind of control that heat just a little bit. Put that off to the side, down to julienne. Just come back the other way, just like with the squash. Kind of really refine that, make it nice and fine. These aren't going to cook for long, so keeping them nice and small will keep them fresh, but also so that they don't overpower the dish at all. So now you've got everything ready, your mise en place is done. It's a one-pan dish, so you really does not take long at all. First thing you want to do, get your fat into your dish, give it a fair amount, probably 2 tablespoons or so there. Let that heat. It's going to be squash and carrots first. Basically you want to start breaking down the starch in those and really get them cooking, because you're going to be followed up by your fiddleheads and your corn, which are pretty well already cooked and don't need a ton of time in the pan. Once we get those fiddleheads in, we're then going to bring in that apple juice to kind of steam and give those some life again. And then the goal would be to finish with both butter and honey and jalapeno. So first thing in, your squash, medium diced squash, right alongside your carrot. Before I season vegetables like this, I do like to get them all coated and warm. And that's when I come in with seasoning. As much or as little as you prefer. I like a little bit more salt and pepper. And just kind of let those two things get to know each other. Try to get to a point where everything that has a side has made contact with that pan. Started to kind of cook down a little bit of those sugars within that vegetable. So fiddlehead ferns grow on just about any bank of any river in Maine. When all the snow melt comes through the rivers, all those water levels rise, and they kind of give birth to these ferns that are perennial. They grow every year. They have these root systems deep in the ground, much like a mushroom, much like mycelium. So we harvest those every year as soon as those water levels drop, before the sunlight really gets to it and turns them into this big, beautiful fern. And a lot of people do find different ways to preserve them, whether they be freezing them or dehydrating them. Some people even pickle them with a brine. I think it's much healthier to dry it and not have any additives to that thing. And you get more of that, really, to me, it's like chlorophyll. It's like anytime you smell or eat a plant and you get that really sharp, you can almost, it tastes green. Even if you had your eyes closed, you would know it's green. That's what fiddleheads are to me personally. So now we're getting a lot of good color on both the carrots and the squash. At this point, I would want to give it just a little bit longer to ensure that these cook all the way through, because both our fiddleheads and our corn are already really cooked and they really don't need a ton of time in the pan. So yeah, at this point, I think we're safe to get our fiddleheads in there and work our corn alongside it. Once you feel good about getting all that coated and using that residual seasoning that's been sitting in the pan, get it to a good place, that's when you're going to go with just a little bit of the apple juice, not a lot. I give it a toss as you're doing it. And this is really just to bring moisture back into those fiddleheads. I'd like it to get it to a point where you bring it to a simmer. You kind of see these little bubbles starting to form around the edge. I'd say give it a good minute and simmer. So at this point, when you see there's little to no liquid, that's when I like to add not a lot of butter, just a little. Work that through with honey. Again, everything in this dish is fairly sweet. So to balance that out, just working some jalapeños in the very end. Not giving a lot of cook time because I really want that fresh complement alongside those fiddleheads. It also stays very fresh. And really just work that butter through and cook it down. It's completely up to you on how much of that liquid you want saved. I like to cook it just till there's almost no liquid before I serve. So now that you've sauteed everything, you feel confident that everything's well cooked, it's time to plate up. Today we're serving this as a side dish, but it can definitely accompany any type of protein, any type of bread. If you want to add more broth to this and make it into a soup. My favorite way to eat it is for breakfast with a couple eggs on top. It's a complete meal already. It doesn't really need a whole lot, but it's a great side dish to any main dish. So there you have it. There's our fiddlehead succotash. Hope you enjoy it.